Hello, I'm Alex, the Bacano insurance journalist. I love answering questions about health insurance, life insurance, as well as saving you money and talking about side hustles. Today I want to make a video, a very important video, the type of video that really comes from the heart. It's not going to be one of those where I'm going to tackle an insurance question or a side hustle. I'm going to get to the core of something that a lot of people really do think about. A lot of people do want to do, but it is not necessarily the type of topic that we hear about. We often hear about success. We often hear about the great things. We often hear about the best stories. What I'm going to tell you today is about YouTube and my story. Let's go. So originally, I had this idea. I said to myself, I wanted to do something where I get to teach. I wanted to do something that was difficult as well. I wanted to do something that allowed me to grab information that I knew and I wanted to share with others. Now, if we're talking about something like cryptocurrencies or we're talking about financial stuff, then it's fairly common to see channels grow. And now when channels grow, because we're talking about these topics, the reason why is because there's something about that particular set of niches or niche in which people have money invested. They have things they've placed into it. And that desire to sort of connect and to justify it, to maybe explain and understand their investment is why people sort of do these things. They kind of follow these YouTube channels. Now, in the case of a cryptocurrency channel, for example, I originally started with this idea and I noticed immediately that there was subscriber growth. It was fairly straightforward during the time that cryptocurrencies were climbing, were surging. People were invested in some of the more obscure projects. You can just simply go and talk about VeChain and just run over to VeChain subreddit or VeChain community and just leave your link, and people would trickle over and they'd ask you questions and you'd have immediate instantaneous feedback and commentary, which are all quality metrics for Google to see. That's how your videos start becoming more and more recommended, is when they see those engagements. Now, here's the dilemma with that, of course, is that that is very cyclical. So when cryptocurrencies are doing well, everybody's going to be in on it. When cryptocurrencies aren't doing well, people sort of tend to shy away from these topics and they become less common or less popular because they're not seen as a quick process or a quick method to get rich. Instead, they become more of a let's not talk about that, or let's not think about that at the time, right? And if you look at your search history and you look at what you've been watching lately, it'll become common sense to you that this is the case. Right now, the trending topic, of course, is the war in the Ukraine. And if you look at that topic, it is going to be streaming through the timeline or streaming through your sort of list of viewing options. But in reality, that's also a transient topic. As we can imagine, this is starting to become less and less and less popular of a topic as time passes by because it's the nature of life. We definitely are concerned and care about the people in the Ukraine, but at the same time, too, life continues over here, and we have different things that come up that we need to talk about or discuss. So a channel has to be flexible to do these things. But now here's the other part of this too, is that when you're starting a YouTube channel, you're kind of looking for a topic that has what's called evergreen. Now, evergreen is when you have a topic or a concept that could just continue to be made, right? It can live for a long time. Now, if we're talking about, for example, homeowners insurance can last forever as a topic because homeowners insurance is not going to change. There's the same forms, the same insurance concerns, there's the same risks discussed with homeowners insurance. Now, homeowners insurance is an example of an evergreen topic. That's kind of like the ideal. It's going to stay there and it's going to just progressively grow on its own over time. And that's kind of the strategy that I honed in on. I said, I want to go for a topic that I have training in, that I can make content that's going to be evergreen over time, that's going to be useful to people as time progresses. And that was always my idea at the core of this channel, was to start with topics and concepts and ideas that were going to be useful for people. Not just an algorithm, not just for a short-lived fad, not just for an investment that is in something speculative that may tank the next year. We're talking about something that can last for as long as possible, years down the line, and still be relevant to folks and still be useful. So that's the beginning of this program, or rather channel, was beginning with the idea in mind that I can sort of build something that has that sort of stickiness, that has that sort of relevance for folks years down the line. Not necessarily the most incredible, awe-inspiring topic where you're like, oh my God, that's like insanely interesting, right? But at the same time too, when you have questions about it, it's a resource that's available. Now, let's talk about the actual parts of building a YouTube channel and what nobody ever talks about, what nobody ever discusses, right? Because building a YouTube channel is not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily fun all the time. As a matter of fact, when you see those really successful YouTube channels, we're talking about Graham Stephan, we're talking about me, Kevin, you have to think about something in particular. When you think about those folks, they didn't need to depend on savings to carry them. They used their earnings, their passive income, to allow them the time to build their community. Now, this is a very interesting pattern, because what's happening is that the wealthy are getting inherently wealthier, and we're following them. We're sitting there going, oh, please give us these dew droppings of knowledge because you're so much smarter than us. What we're doing is that we're recycling that sort of you're better than us and you should give us more information nonsense, right, that we've taught, because we sort of see folks that have accomplished the act of becoming self-sustained as being inherently smarter. And now I'm here to tell you that's not the case. It's just a matter of alignment of the stars. In regards to a YouTube channel, the most important thing that you need to understand is that this is the most grueling, heart-wrenching process that you will ever go through. It is not one of those things where you're going to sit there and think that you're going to just hit home runs. Now, when I initially made cryptocurrency videos, I did get subscribers and I did get people that trickled in and watched, but it wasn't because I just made a video and I left this sitting there. I had to go align myself with the community that was interested in it. I had to go post it there, and then I had to sit back. And now there's moments that I've had to hear with this channel when Roe versus Wade was overturned in the Supreme Court. I posted a video, short, immediately. I ranked 80 something viewers instantaneously. I've had other videos too regarding the most dangerous cities in the United States, hundreds of views instantaneously, because there was an alignment of interest. People cared about that information. Now, the tricky part is that oftentimes it comes down to a particular set of words. If you sit there and you say, this is the topic that we're talking about, X, and this is what we're doing, Y, and then you create this video, you would say to yourself, okay, let's see what it does. And when it succeeds, high five, we're good, right? We got this, sensational. We went ahead and created something that was relevant, that was important, that people cared about. But here's the thing though, right? When you do that, oftentimes you could have hit gold. You'd be like, whoa, this had, significant viewing. People cared about this, whether it was wedding insurance, which was significantly higher than norm. We have this desire that we have, that we say to ourselves that we can figure this out, that we can understand exactly what the cause of it is. We can understand what drove that desire to watch that. And one of the quickest lessons you'll learn about YouTube is that it's just a particular set of words that caused that relationship to occur. So then you figure, okay, just toss up a couple of links and get some affiliate marketing going in, even low views. But if you get that 1% conversion rate on an affiliate link, there's income, right? We're building this thing. Even with the small amount of views, the affiliate marketing, the affiliate content should help create income. But what happens? You go, you create the video, you say to yourself, you're good, and before you know it, you get no views. No, 0, 1, 2, 3. Something so incongruous that you can't figure it out. You're like, the original content that this second video was created for or with in mind receives a ton of attention. However, the subsequent video receives no attention. And not just no attention, but like non-existent, which is a concept I want you to wrap your head around. This is the only industry I can think of where that's even remotely part of life, right? Because you can create a business and you can have a storefront, and somebody can accidentally walk into your store and ask questions about another place they were going to. And you'd be like, okay, it's right down the street. And there's an interaction of some form. YouTube, however, has this thing where it will literally tell you didn't get any attention. None, 0. And now, you go online, you try to study, you try to become better, you say, what can cause that issue to occur? What are some things that are happening here that are not preventing this video from doing what I imagined that it would do? So you start looking at your SEO and you say, you need to write longer descriptions to help explain what this video is about. You then say to yourself, well, you gotta build stronger thumbnails. That's the key right here, you just gotta build thumbnails. Now, that for me is where you start going down the rabbit hole of time. Because it's one thing to make a video, which takes about literally the least amount of time. You could make a video in 15, 20 minutes. You can sit there, just go through the first take, go through the second take, and just belt out a video. Now comes the hard part. The hard part being, you gotta go edit it, you gotta go get the thumbnail for it, you gotta get the description, you gotta get all this other information that's relevant for getting it marketed. So for example, maybe you want to go on a different Reddit to put the link on, and it becomes a time consuming process. So a single video of length could take you upwards of a day or two to get it properly out there. And the dilemma with that is that imagine you spend a day or two of your life and what you get at the end of it is zero. Not one or two, zero. And that's hard. That's difficult because you sit there and you say, wow, your collective effort meant nothing to the world. And that's a tough spoon to swallow. If you're the type of person driven by validation from external sources, YouTube is going to be a severe awakening. YouTube is also one of those things too that makes you have an understanding as to the 1% rule. Now, the 1% rule is always something I stick in my mind. It applies to marketing, at least the way I understand it. You can have a advertisement of some form or another, and the advertisement that you have is going to have what's called the conversion rate. Now, conversion rate means how likely is it to draw attention. So imagine that you have a business card and you give a business card out. You have a 1% conversion. What that means is that 1% of the people that interact with that will, in some way or another, get back to you. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's just the reality of life. People are busy. Things happen. There's just no way to guarantee that you're going to have a conversion rate on anything, right? So imagine the massive ad budgets that are built around all these crazy images and crazy videos and getting influencers to say and do things. And at the end of the day, what they're targeting is maybe a 2-3% conversion, right? That would be considered solid. It means 100 people, 97, 98 rejected it, didn't care for it. And then an exceptional conversion rate in this situation starts getting near around 5 or 7%, which still means that 90-something% of people didn't interact with it. Now, I've heard people say they can get conversion rates that are higher, like somewhere in the 12 neighborhood or 15, but that still means 85% of people rejected the initial advertisement. And it often is said that in order for something to really stick, for you to understand how much traction you have in a given market, that it takes up to 7 separate exposures of your information for someone to feel that it is relevant to pursue or look into. So now imagine all those leaflets you get in the mail that you look at for half a second, you toss them out. They're mass mailers. Now, these mass mailers are kind of built on mailing lists. Companies just go and they get the post office, they provide a list, and then they use a mailer that's been approved by the post office, and then they just synchronize the two, and the post office takes care of it, and they get charged for the delivery. Oftentimes, quite a bit of money. We're talking about in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for these mailing campaigns. And at the end of the day, they get tossed in the garbage. And imagine, that's the professionals. These are the people that do that for a living. So you as a YouTube channel, so you as a YouTube creator, you have to sort of figure, how do you reconcile that? How do you take the reality of the world, which is not so friendly, with your vision, with what you want to do? And the easy thing to say is that you have to start with a vision that is very microscopic in its perspective, right? That you have to start with the idea that what you're going to build is something that's based on one narrow thing, and then repeat and repeat. For example, airlines. Airlines go, they take off, and they come back. That's it, right? There's nothing else. You go to a bakery, guess what? You have baked goods. That's it. And that's that hyper specialization that YouTube requires. So if you're talking about cryptocurrencies, hyper specialization would say that you would talk about the top 10 coins or the top 15 coins, forgetting or foregoing all the other coins that nobody ever heard of. I don't know about you, but life is more interesting when we have variety, when we have information that we may not necessarily know. How many times have you ever gone looking for a search and you never really were able to identify what you're looking for because everyone answered the same generic questions that you already had answers to, but your specialized question was not able to be found as far as a response to? And here's the thing, there is a response for that question. There is an answer for that question. It's just that nobody really saw a market in doing that. Nobody saw an opportunity economically in doing that, in answering that question. So the question doesn't get answered, even though the answer is out there, even though I bet you 9 out of 10 times that someone out there has the information you're looking for. It's just not a properly aligned thing. Additionally, too, I want to go ahead and talk to you about the reality of YouTube. YouTube is one of those things that is microscopic details matter. The thumbnail color, the size of the thumbnail, the image that you say, rather. All these things are important. And they can be maddening. They could be to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, this is like insane, right? How can someone spend that much time on something? So if you're getting into this, make sure that you're ready for all that. Make sure that you're ready to tackle that. It's not impossible. It's not a thing that is to dissuade you, but to say to you rather that, hey, if you plan on doing something, you gotta be about it. I wanna go ahead, thank you for your time. As you can tell right now, I'm carrying a little bit of sickness. I'm about 90-something% certain it might be the flu or something like this. So I'll get better. I definitely know that this is not a one-day recovery, so you gotta just take it in time, have some tea, etc. If you found the information we just talked about useful or relevant, go ahead and make sure to like, subscribe, share, and please comment below because it helps grow the channel. As always, take care of yourselves and stay blessed.